Hello everyone and welcome to an ACC track guide in the McLaren 570S at Brands Hatch. Yes, we're doing a GT4 track guide for you today, so hopefully this is going to be really helpful. This is a round in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. This is a championship that Logitech are running. $150,000 worth of prizes they're giving away, including a grand prize where you can meet Lando Norris at the Red Bull F1 race in Austria. Absolutely unbelievable. Also giving away Logitech Pro direct drive wheels, Logitech low cell pedals, Logitech Pro wireless headsets, a lot of stuff. Now, if you qualify for Logitech McLaren G Challenge, you already enter into the sweepstakes. In fact, I think Nathan here qualified and already has won a Pro headset.
Yeah, a set of wired headphones, yeah.
Yeah, Pro wired headset. So it can happen. So there's more details about that in the description. But we're going to try and give you a guide here to this combination, which is one of the knockout rounds. Try and give you the best fighting chance you have of progressing. And this is specifically about the setup. I'm really interested for this video. I'm here with Nathan, who's a very fast ACC driver, also a very fast driver in real life when it comes to karting. Knows a lot about the fundamentals of how to set up a car. But this one is a bit unusual because it's a GT4 car. So the brakes are not as good as GT3.
Nope.
There's not as much power. This has more relation to its road-going cousin than the GT3 car.
Yep.
And, well, where should we start?
Well, aggressive is not going to cut it for this series.
As in, it's not aggressive enough.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. So we're going to have to go for a custom one. So, I mean, you can open up aggressive and we'll go from there. You know, generally, as like I said in the last video with the 720, the toe settings and the camber settings seem to be an ACC thing, but you just max it out or min it out, as we say. To the minimal settings, so it would be max camber and as negative toe as it can give you in the game.
Yeah.
It's just an ACC thing. I can't explain it. It's just if you want to go fast, that's an easy cheat code. Now, something we've got to bear in mind is track temperatures.
Yeah.
So right now we've got a 27-degree track temperature.
Yeah.
What the track temperature is going to be in the Logitech server is around 38 degrees.
That's hot.
That is hot.
I mean, that's record temperatures for Brands Hatch.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been 38 degrees ever at Brands Hatch in real life. But, you know, that's the way Logitech wants it.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to go with. That's what we're going to prepare for with this setup as well.
We're going to lower these PSIs for 38 degrees then.
The thing is, lowering the setups, lowering the PSIs, it's going to create too much heat. There's going to be too much movement. Having a squidgy soft rubber tyre, because there's not much pressure in there, is going to generate a lot of heat.
I got it. Okay.
So you want to avoid that. That's something I actually learned in iRacing.
Really?
Lower pressures generate more heat.
Because people don't really mess with the pressure in iRacing at all, normally.
No. But that's because they're always set to minimal.
Yeah.
So that's what I've taken to ACC as well. Under pressured, you're going to be at risk to generating too much heat.
Yeah.
Over pressured, you know, it's just mildly over pressured.
Yeah.
So we'll go with the original preset for the PSIs for now.
Yeah.
Because GT3s, you have the luxury of preheated tyres.
Yeah.
GT4s, they don't preheat the tyres. However, the optimal is still between 27.3 27.8 psi.
Yeah.
So it will take about 5 laps to get up to temperature and pressure, and then you can see where you're at. GT3 is probably 2 laps, 3 laps.
You're on it. But
again, you know, they're quite quick to warm up because they're so under pressured. They're so squidgy that they warm up pretty quickly.
Yeah. What about sort of, because Brands Hatch has got 3 left-handed corners, whereas you have some quite aggressive right-handed corners where you're really trying to push it.
Yeah.
Turn 1, for example. Pretty much all the right-handers are quite punishing.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, this track and this car. Even though it's a mid-engine car, you're very front limited. So it's using the front tyres a lot more than you think.
Yeah.
That's what we've got to bear in mind with this setup. But We'll leave the PSIs as they are for now.
Yeah.
You have to do a few laps just to see where you are.
Yeah.
Um,
I find it interesting that the left front
Mm.
is starting with a higher pressure than the right rear, but I find that interesting. But that is something that we would just have to see.
yeah,
Um,
probably will end up in the rear.
yeah, TC in GT4 cars.
You
Obviously,
still need it.
Yeah.
These cars still have, what is it, roughly around 400 horsepower? Between 350 and 400.
Something like that.
Something like that. You know, these are racing cars. Even road cars with that much power, you know, they've got traction control.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, even those are a bit heavier. These are much lighter cars.
Strict, yeah.
They haven't got as much weight pushing it into the ground. So you do still need the traction control, you know. It is still a racing car.
Yeah.
It's there to be used and taken advantage of rather than a hindrance. So I'd say leave it on.
Okay.
ABS. Something very, very interesting about this car.
Yeah.
If you're engaging the ABS in this car, you're killing your lap time. You're killing your turn-in ability.
Yeah.
You're killing your mid-corner speed.
Pretty much just a rule of thumb.
Yeah, you don't want to be engaging the ABS in this car. Whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 or even off, you know, having it off could be a very good indicator into your drive. It could be very good insight into your driving style to see where you're pressing the brake too much.
Yeah.
If you like,
because you'll be locking up.
You'll hear it lock up. You'll feel it lock up, and that will be good information and feedback for you to know where you're pushing it too much. All the ABS is doing is trying to eliminate that lock up that you're creating.
Yeah.
So if you can eliminate that lock up, you won't need the ABS as much. You won't need to rely on it.
Yeah.
Because if it does kick in, you know, it's going to make you understeer quite a lot. It's a characteristic that the GT3 cars don't have as much.
Is that because when you get off, there's more power in that sort of brake? Well, you're not on the power there. It was just because the ABS. It just feels like here the ABS proportionally might be stronger to like what's going on with the car compared to GT3, but I can't really explain it.
I can't explain it that well. All I know is from my experience with this car is you need to brake earlier and less.
Yeah.
That's the general.
GT4 cars for me, I actually find them very different to GT3s.
Oh, they are very good. Think of them more like a road car.
Yeah. Alright, we talked about ECU and telemetry in the last video. So, obviously, if you saw the last video, you know that if you're doing a race, any kind of sprint race, anything Logitech McLaren G challenge, put these on 1. Interesting to see here that obviously the fuel per lap is less than the GT3 cars.
Yeah.
So need to adjust that accordingly, make sure that you're not putting in too much fuel and carrying that extra weight. Why don't we start with Aero actually?
We'll start with the Aero.
So ride height and wing, I feel like the philosophy of this car is slightly different, right? Because I feel like you want to conserve more momentum in this car. It's not so much of a, you don't have so much power to get you out of trouble.
No.
And sliding in GT4 I find can be just really not a nice thing to do, where sliding in GT3 can actually push you around.
Yeah, it's really not good. Sliding a GT4 car is not as beneficial as, you know, a slide in a GT3 car.
Yeah.
But when I say slide, I don't mean uncontrolled counter steer slide.
Yeah, just as micro.
Yeah, I mean like an oversteery feeling.
Yeah, just to get a few 0.5% more on the rotation.
Yeah.
Interesting that the ride height already is slammed at the front.
Yeah, what you notice about GT4 is there's much less adjustability than GT3.
Yeah.
So you have to be a bit more precise with your. Whereas GT3, you got so many different combinations you can use depending on your driving style, the track. There's so many different settings you can play with. You eventually come to a very, very similar lap time than someone with perhaps a completely different setup.
Yeah.
GT4, you have to be more precise with yourselves because there's less to do. To be honest, let's go to mechanical grip first.
Yeah.
If you try adjusting the wheel rates, you see how little adjustment you have. There's only two different
Two
settings.
options, yeah.
Generally, so it's something else I've learned from, all the sims that I play on.
Yeah.
A softer suspension give you more mechanical grip. So that being the softest out of the two settings I have,
Yeah.
that's the one that you want to be on. The rear, because this car is so understeery,
Yeah.
some would be tempted to go for a stiffer rear.
Yeah.
A stiffer rear will encourage a bit more oversteer
Yeah.
in general. It could be something that we can try out.
There's not a lot of adjustability again, though.
No, there's not. You can't even adjust the preload.
Yeah.
Or the brake bias.
Or the brake bias. I don't know if that's a class thing, or if I presume it's a class thing, because I don't see why it wouldn't be beneficial in an ideal world to be able to adjust the brake bias.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just in this class you can't,
maybe it's just one of the
cost
limited things, but regardless, you can work around it. Brake bias is very front biased, but you usually work around that by using less brake. Definitely less brake as you start to apply the steering.
Yeah.
It's very, like we just said about the McLaren, it was back at about 50%, 51%.
Yeah.
So this is very, very front biased.
Yeah.
You would have to work your way around that by braking earlier.
Yeah.
And bleeding off the brake.
And that's also going to make it easier to dip into the ABS as well, right?
Definitely.
Slip into that trap.
Definitely.
Because we're front limited, so what we want to do really into a braking zone, I mean, turn one's a good example because we really want to get the rotation and we're coming in quite fast, is you definitely don't want to be looking up.
No.
You want to be getting the car ready to pitch in. In an ideal world, you'd have the back coming around and pushing you around because it's a MR car. But in reality, I think you just have to be smooth getting off that brake to allow the front end to encourage it to come in.
Yeah.
And then just smoothly go around. Won't be as flamboyant as you can do it in a GT3.
No, that's the thing. This smoothness that you need into the braking zones. If you imagine you get on the brake really hard and the car goes down. As you slowly start to bleed off the brakes, the front of the car starts to come up again. However, if you snap off the brakes, the front of the car is going to go from being pitched down to springing up. The suspension's just going to spring it up straight away. You're going to lose all that weight. Is now going to flip to the back of the car, unsettle the car. You're going to get loads of understeer.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you think I've broken too late, and you might panic and think the ABS is going to kick in. Sometimes it's better to just stay on the brake a little bit, just to keep the front down.
Especially like turn one here, that front left down.
Yeah, you want to keep the front, especially the front left down, into the tarmac, and it'll push the car around the corner. Whereas if you just release the brake, the front's just gonna spring up.
Especially here as well, turn one downhill as well.
Yeah.
So you really want to be pitching it in because already you're up against it. It's very interesting actually combination this, isn't it, they've chosen. But yeah, so a lot more here actually with your driving style, I think, because you're definitely limited there. But if we go back to Aero in terms of
the Aero looks okay.
Yeah, so quite low wing, isn't it?
What's interesting about this is that you don't have that reference at the bottom of the screen.
The percentage
about the Aero variation between the front and the rear. Maybe these cars don't produce as much downforce.
Maybe.
Well, they don't produce as much downforce.
Yeah.
But maybe any changes that you make won't affect it to any degree that it needs to be made reference to.
What's your view in terms of? So we want to induce that front end to sort of turn, right? If you really apply more downforce via the rear ring in a corner where it's actually doing some difference, is that going to actually inhibit sort of the?
It's going to take away from the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a bit paradox, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to push the rear in so much that all the rear wants to do is carry on straight. If you were to remove all the wing, which I think we should do for this track, you're never really going fast enough.
to really benefit from it.
To benefit.
Maybe
And-
that
and
fast right-hander is
this-
the only one.
The thing is, this car is so understeery as standard, even if you set it up to what you want.
Yeah.
It's very, very understeery, no matter what you do.
So we don't want to add any more in that circumstance.
I don't think it's worth having any more railway.
Yeah. Interesting. So this is quite a... Well, we're trying to make it less draggy.
Yeah. There's not much speed difference.
Yeah.
But any wing that you're adding will definitely... It will subtract from your corner speed.
Yeah. Ducts, I think we have the same options actually as GT3.
Yeah. Ducting, you'd need to open the ducts a little bit more when you get into Logitech server.
Yeah, because it's so hot.
At the moment it's 27. But you'll see, once you enter a Logitech practice server and you get in there and it's 38 degrees,
Yeah.
you're going to want the front open. But it's still going to be very, very difficult to manage that front left tire.
Yeah. I would say actually, because in the G Challenge it is so high on temps, tyre pressures are going to make such a big difference here.
Yeah, I mean, tyre pressures are probably the easiest thing to adjust because you know exactly what target.
Only one variable really, isn't it, per wheel?
There's only one target, 27.3 to 27.8.
Yeah.
You know, once you drive 5, 6, 7 laps.
Yeah. So
You
there
will
is this prediction here, Nathan, PSI hot. I can't remember how that's calculated. If that's calculated off the temp.
I think, do you know what that is? As the tyres pumped up in the garage, you put 21.0 psi
Yeah.
in that front left.
Yeah.
But as it gets to the outside temperature is 27 degrees,
Yeah.
the air expands. So when you're sitting in that pit lane,
Hmm.
it might be already 25.3.
Got it. Yeah. It
Although
makes sense.
ACC sometimes takes the readings from the last car you were in
And then it adds it here,
and
doesn't
it
it?
puts it to your new page.
Yeah.
So what you might have to actually do is go out to the car.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
As it's sitting in the pit lane, you can see exactly what it is.
Green light, green light.
Okay.
Go, go, go.
Currently
So as you see, that is exactly what you set it to.
Yeah.
So now it's evident that the ambient temperature has no effect
Yeah.
on the PSI of the
So
tyre.
that's a prediction of some sort. Okay, if we just return back to the garage, I think the last thing was dampers, but interestingly, it's 0 here on the fast bump and the fast rebound. Brands Hatch, there's not really that many curbs. You just snap in the grass, don't you?
Yeah,
Last time.
you can't adjust those anyway. Fast
Oh
bump,
yeah,
fast bump, fast rebound. There's no adjustments to make
Yeah.
in GT4. But again, you know, it's a difficult one with this car. Like I said in the 720, you don't want the front to dip too much
Yeah.
in the braking zone or while you're turning.
yeah,
But you would think that in this car, you want it to dip because of how understeery it is, just as a natural characteristic of the car.
yeah,
However, if the front does dip too much, it's a negative effect. You're
Yeah.
asking too much of that corner of the car or that side of the car. You know, all the weight is going to be over to there because you asked to dip too much by reducing that bump setting, and that's going to inhibit understeer. It's going to wear the tires out even more
yeah,
because you're just asking too much of it and create too much heat as well.
yeah.
It's a downward spiral. So that's where I was saying, you know, whereas there's less to adjust, it becomes a bit more specific with
Yeah.
this car. So a bit of fine tuning is needed with the bump, you know.
Yeah.
But again, it's depending on what you want. You might like braking in a straight line. You might want it to dip on both wheels at the same time.
Yeah,
But others might want it to be propped up a little bit.
yeah,
If they like to brake and do a bit of turning,
yeah,
they want that corner where the weight is going to be propped up a little bit.
yeah. I mean, a lot of it is how comfortable people are with cornering. Some people like getting to the apex really early, and then they can release the brake a little bit, or they roll past it. Some people they're very precise in their braking marker straight line, and they have a really strong turning point. Like, I don't really have a very strong turning point a lot of the time. I'll brake, but then I'll always feel it on trail braking.
Yeah.
So that I like to have a lot of feel and adjustability in the corner.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of it is driver preference, but given that in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge server it is going to be hot, definitely pay attention to the tyres and
the brake ducts.
You don't want to be hampering yourself there. Yeah. But hopefully this is going to help you. Let us know in the comments if it has, if you have any other questions. The other track we're going to do a setup guide for is the Hungaroring. So here we are at Hungaroring in the McLaren 650S. This is a combination in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. It's going to be quite hot in the servers that Logitech have set up. So we're going to bear that in mind when we set up the car for you. Just to remind you, if you qualify for Logitech McLaren G Challenge, you become eligible to win the grand prize where you can meet Lando Norris at the Red Bull F1 race in Austria, which is very, very cool. They're also giving away $150,000 worth of prizes across the whole thing. And I'm going to be doing a Beat My Lap Time segment where if you're on PC and you qualify and beat my lap time, you're going to be in the draw to win. The wheel I'm using now is Logitech the Logitech Pro direct drive wheel, Logitech load cell pedals as well, and Logitech Pro wireless headset. And some great news, Logitech are also going to give away a Logitech G923 wheel to people who can beat my lap time on console. Great to see the accessibility. I'm here with Nathan. He's a very fast ACC driver, also a very fast karter in real life. And this is quite a tricky setup, the McLaren 650S. Not a car that I've actually honestly driven that much, but it seems to be the philosophy is different to other cars we've looked at. And the Hungaroring, quite a serious circuit as well. I've actually been here in real life. Quite a nice circuit to walk around. Should we start off with the temps that are going to be in the server? Because I think they're going to be, like Brands Hatch, quite high.
Yeah, temps will be much hotter in the server than what you see in here. Temps will be about 37 degrees track temp.
Yeah.
So it's something to bear in mind when you're setting up your tyre pressures and your brake ducts. This is a very physically demanding circuit on the car, on the brakes, on the tyres. So you will want the brake ducts to be fairly open. Again, depending on driving style, you might like a lot of frontward brake bias, which means you'd have to open up the front brake ducts quite a lot. Or you might prefer the brake bias a bit to the rear, which means you can be a bit more closed off in the front. It will help the overall aero package of the car. You know, you haven't got air getting trapped inside, and it does slow you down a little bit, you know. It does disturb your aerodynamic ability. But it's something that you will get to grips with as you're practicing.
One of the best looking cars, I have to say, for me.
It's a really nice looking car. It's a shame. Not a lot of people use it because it's not really good. Like every update that they do, they make some cars better. They make some cars a bit.
You've also got the 720.
The 720 shadows this car.
Yeah.
Overshadows this car in almost every aspect.
But I feel like for me, this was a turning point for McLaren in terms of GT3 cars. I mean, what was before this? What was their car before this?
Nothing.
I mean, you go all the way back to McLaren F1, like with racing these sort of categories. Yeah. Yeah,
I think even iRacing still have this car.
Yeah, shoots flame out the back.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't compete anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, but we have to use it here for Logitech McLaren G Challenge. So we'll start with aggressive, I think, like we always do. And I think if you watched our videos before, you know what we're going to do to turn camera. We're going to min it out.
Yep.
Just something that seems to lean into the way that ACC is doing these physics. And then tyre pressures, again.
Tyre pressures are a trial and error thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, generally, you know, the tyres are in blankets in the pits. So you don't have to run that many laps to get an idea of if you'll be in the operating range or not. But, I mean, for 27 degrees, these pressures look okay. We won't have to do a massive adjustment. But, you know, so we'll make that adjustment.
Clockwise circuit, the Hungaroring, but lots of fast left-handed in there as well. Just lots of corners in the Hungaroring. So quite a balanced circuit, quite a fun circuit, I find.
It's a wicked circuit. I really like it in ACC.
Yeah. Not in iRacing, I believe. Or maybe it is actually, I can't remember. Maybe they added it. It's definitely not in GT7.
I haven't driven it in... Yeah, I haven't driven it in either of those. GT7 or iRacing.
So if we look at the TC and ABS, we're back in a Group 3 car, so you will be leaning into the TC.
Yeah. What's the max at TC setting? So 8. So you've got 8 levels of adjustment. This car is very, very good on traction on the corner exits. I drove it at Spa a couple months ago, and you know, coming out of that final corner, there's no sliding, there's no instability. It just goes.
Yeah.
So judging from my experience with that, I wouldn't feel the need to use too much traction control here. I'd be tempted to leave it at 2,
Okay.
to be honest.
ABS. It is nicely balanced on the exit, right?
Very. It's a very nicely balanced car. This. I think the wheelbase is shorter.
Yeah.
So it's very nimble. I think it can actually take pull on faster than a lot of the more modern cars.
Just because it's so balanced through there.
Yeah, it's honestly it's such a nice car to drive, but overall, it just hasn't really got the power or the pace to be fast over a lap time compared to the others.
We'll try and lean into its strengths here. ABS, obviously, we've got the same graph. I think actually similar principle to 720S here.
Yeah, with the ABS though, the chart is slightly different.
Yeah.
The ABS is adjusted on how worn your tyres are.
Yeah.
That's what this chart is telling you.
Yeah.
So, you know, if your tyres are brand new, it's suggesting to you you can use 2 ABS and get away with that. However, if your tyres start to wear, you know, maybe 8, 9, 10 is going to give you a bit more stability and confidence so that you won't lose the car.
Yeah.
But, you know, quali settings, short races, the tyres are not going to wear.
Yeah.
So you try to get away with as minimal ABS as you can.
Yeah.
Like we said for the 720, it's brake bias dependent as well.
Yeah.
But this car is very well balanced. I'd say 4 is, you're not really going to go much more, much less than that.
Nice. Fuel and strategy, we know the drill by now. We're just going to put this on the most aggressive pads.
Low fuel level.
Low fuel, so if you're doing qualifying, workout. This is using more fuel, I believe, than 720S.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Nathan makes the point, so this is already like more than 4 laps of fuel. So
yeah, which quality shootout, you know, 2 laps, 3 laps.
Yeah.
Is going to give you the best opportunity to make the best lap time that you can.
I don't have a strict number here, but I know in karting, like 10 kg can be at, you know, a couple of tenths at a track easily.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot more power in this car, but as you add up the weight, that is a significant amount of weight. It's like an extra person in the car.
Yeah.
Or a couple, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely worth bearing that in mind. Very easy win there, but also in a race, an easy fail if you get it just under.
Yeah.
So why don't we go to mechanical grip, because we need to think about the philosophy here in terms of where we want it kind of stiff and where we want it a bit softer.
As this car is very, very willing to turn in, immediately I'd be tempted to up the front anti-roll bar.
Yeah.
It's very, very compliant. As you know, as you start to turn the wheel, you just feel safe with it.
Yeah.
But
you're not asking it to do something it doesn't want to do.
No. No. But because of that, I think it's almost wrong to take advantage of that too much, because it will put you out in the wrong. I mean, it will push you the wrong way, basically.
Yeah.
If you haven't got enough front anti-roll bar to secure that front, you know, it's gonna wanna swap ends. As you start to turn in. So have a bit of stiffness at the front, just to negate its willingness to turn in.
Yeah.
Brake bias. Again, mid-engine cars, I don't think I ever go more than 53.
That's quite high for a starting point, I would think.
Yeah. You want to make the most of that weight on the back as well. You got too much brake bias on the front, you're just going to lock up the fronts.
Yeah.
You're not maximising the use of the rears as well. So, the steering ratio, I'd say that's okay where it is.
Yeah, not a lot of... It's very much on the low side already.
Yeah. The rest of the car looks okay, to be honest.
Yeah. So we've got quite soft on the back there. As we talked about. So let's go to Aero. So ride height, interestingly, in aggressive, it already... Well, it's equal, actually. So there's no rake on this car at the moment.
I think that is testament to just how nicely balanced it is. You know, even if you was to drive it like this, it would feel very, very nice, even though the front and rear is the same ride height.
Yeah.
But as always, like I explained before, you know, the higher the back is, the more it wants to pivot.
Yeah.
It's just finding that limit of how much you can get away with raising the rear
Yeah.
before you start to lose it, before it starts to feel unstable.
Yeah. So
So
that's something
trial
I think.
and error. I mean, just
Yeah.
me, I would raise it by about 3 clicks.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like this is a really good combination to feel that rotation and make adjustments to the rear ride height on this car on this track.
yeah. You'll definitely feel it, you know, even if you make a 2-click adjustment, you'll feel it.
Yeah. It's
but
interesting.
yeah,
In no car we've done to date have we increased. Oh, there's no front splitter anyway.
No, I don't think. Some cars have a front splitter. The Porsche has a front splitter.
Yeah.
The Mercedes
AMG,
I believe, has a front
you can
splitter.
see the thing.
I don't know of any others that have a front splitter actually.
Don't think the Bentley does it?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think the front engine cars need one, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. And then dampers. So I'm trying to think about curbs. So there are a lot of times you do actually go inside on curbs and go outside on curbs.
Yeah. So, I mean, sausage curbs in particular. Think of that chicane up the top of the track.
Yeah.
You want quite a lot of fast bump for that, because fast bump is to do with harsh reactions. So curbs, bumps in the track. You want the fast bump to be quite stiff, whereas the normal bump is to do with steering inputs, throttle inputs, and brake inputs.
Yeah. Okay, so we've tried to match those, and then we've got bump and rear. I mean, it's a car where we don't feel like we probably need to do too much, right? And it feels wrong. I think, like you said at the beginning, but it feels wrong to do too much when the car's already starting in a nicely balanced place.
Yeah.
You better. This is one where you'd be more able to fine tune it actually.
Yeah.
So it's a good sort of testing car in a way, even though, like you say, in lobbies online, it's not that competitive.
No.
But in terms of finding out a philosophy where you're comfortable in driving, it's a really fun car to drive, really satisfying car to drive.
It is, yeah.
I find you can be very consistent in it as well. But there we go. That is a suggested or example or an illustrative setup for the McLaren 650S at the Hungaroring, which is a lobby in Logitech McLaren G Challenge. Do let us know in the comments if you're going to be entering that. Don't miss out the Beat My Lap Time challenge I'm doing, whether you're on PC or on console. It should be really, really exciting. I'm going to be streaming as well. And if you found this helpful, just let us know in the comments. Let us know what little things that were really, really helpful for you, and then we know we can go further into those next time, maybe do some more track guides. But really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video.